Welcome everyone to the Interstate Batteries Proclinic webinar. We'll begin in just a minute as we wait for a few more folks to join us. In the meantime, if you would, go to your Zoom toolbar. You'll see, it's either at the top or bottom of your screen if you move your cursor over that area. In there, you'll see a tool that says Q&A. Go ahead and open that up. And if at any time you have a question during the webinar, type that in right there. Don't put it in the chat. We may not catch it, but put it in the Q&A and we have people standing by. Geniuses really to answer those questions, and if we don't get to it during the webinar, we'll get to it at the end during live Q&A. So please ask away. Those questions help us provide better content, and something you may want to know is something somebody else may want to know too, so don't be shy. I also want to remind everyone that we have had 2 other webinars on related subjects to help you show up better in search for batteries and for all the services you provide. So if you haven't seen those and are interested, you can see the web address down at the bottom of your screen here is interstatebatteries.com/Proclinic. And you can click on those. I don't know if you'll have to go through registration. I don't think you will, but you might have to answer a few questions and then you'll get a link that will allow you to log in and listen to those. They're just like this one. Those are about 45-50 minutes. And we've been told in our post-webinar surveys that there were very useful content. So please check those out. Also, as a reminder, this webinar will be recorded. So if you miss part of it, you'll receive a link after the presentation and you can go back and listen to it at any time. Okay, so a couple minutes in here, let's get started. My name is Kyle Friedel. I'm with Interstate Batteries and I'm joined by Andre Perot of the Lerma agency. They are experts in the digital marketing realm, and they helped us see that when it comes to battery searches and finding an interstate dealer like yourselves, many of you guys just simply aren't showing up in those searches, in the search results. You've got, your biggest battery competition with the auto parts retailers are paying a lot of money to show up, and you simply aren't appearing. So that's what Andre is going to do today and has done for the last 2 parts of this series. For my part, I'm here to ask the stupid questions. So let's kick it off and welcome, Andre.
Thanks, Kyle. Nice to be back again. So there's a quick catchphrase I like to use in terms of describing the benefits of search engine optimization. It's like, you got to be present to win. Truth is, the majority of consumers that are doing a Google search, if you're not on the first page of results, you generally won't get to business. And nowadays, so many consumers are doing online searches to find products and services. It's really key to be present in those search results to make sure that you get a chance of that new business.
So that's what you mean by search engine, is the engine that's powering Google.
Exactly. So before I get into today's subject, I want to kind of just do a quick refresher in terms of many of you have probably done Google searches for various things. To understand, there's a couple of different components to it. There's really an organic results and our paid search ads. So let's take a look at those. So I did a search earlier today for auto repair near me, pretty common search. And what we see here is the search results. So at the top of the page, you'll see where it says ad, or of course, paid ads. It can be anywhere from 2 to 4 ads that may appear for any search query. So if you're currently, for example, not appearing and you'd really like to own or have some visibility there, you can always contact a Google ad rep and you can, for honestly pretty inexpensive, get some visibility there by pay to play, as it were. The remainder of the work is really earned. You have to basically optimize your website to earn that visibility. So for example, to appear in a map pack. Now, we covered this in our first webinar, and that's really done through Google My Business. So if you don't have your business appear here, you can actually review that link that Kyle mentioned earlier and follow that webinar. It's going to give you some essential tips on how to claim your business location, how to create a profile, and even if you have one, how to improve its visibility.
So so just to be clear, those top 2 where they say, if it says ad next to it, that means they paid to be there. But exactly. the next 3 just did a really good job of what we're about to talk about, and that's how they showed up there.
Exactly.
For free.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Some additional organic results may appear in the form of people also ask questions. These are basically really good commonly asked questions for people. So if you ever look at those, it gives you a pretty good idea of the type of content you should actually put on your websites. So do mechanics give free estimates? So a lot of people want to know that. So it's a good place. If you do that, then add that to your website. We have free estimates for the work, things like that. Worth creating that type of content to address those queries. And then of course, below that, you'll have the standard organic results. Usually there'll be anywhere from 8 to 10 of these on a given page. So what we're going to cover today is really the essentials in terms of what you should include on your homepage to improve your visibility in these search results. Ideally, you want to create really identifiable and indexable content. And I'm going to explain a little bit more what that is shortly. We're also going to cover what you should include in your about page, as well as what you should include in your contact page. All right, let's begin with the homepage. The homepage is really the initial place you want to make your best first impression. So let's take a look at a typical homepage. Oh, sorry. This is actually not your typical homepage. You might think that your homepage of your website is. It actually isn't. What's really considered to be your real homepage, the place that 90% of the people will discover your business, is in Google search results. Before they go to your website, they're going to land here. This is your first opportunity to sell your business. And this is really the most missed one. So Discount Tire does really good job in owning the search results. In fact, you look at the entire top half of the page, it's pretty much all content that they've created. So they've done a really excellent job with this. So they are even paying for search ads for their own name. So that way they can control the messaging. No competitors. Well, you might get another competitor appearing, but basically they want to make sure they lock it down that they even appear for paid search ads, even though right below that, they have very similar content.
So the top part they're paying for, but the second part they're showing up again. That's why you see them. Okay, I actually wondered about that. When you see them 2 times in a row.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're paying for a branded search term. And the reason they do that is to, in a sense, prevent others from capitalizing, because you can bid on competitors. And so you could have, let's say, what's another, Big O Tires could bid on Discount Tire and actually appear in front of them. Kind of annoying for the brand. So this way they lock it in by making sure that they appear for the search results as well. You also have a knowledge graph on the right-hand side. That's a nice feature. It kind of tells you more about the business. Some of this information Google gathers from your website, a little bit from Wikipedia. If you have a Wikipedia page, some facts and figures. There are some social media profiles. I'm going to show you how to get that on your website as well in a few minutes. Here's another good example. This is from Autoscope Car Care. Again, here, not as thorough, but they still have the knowledge graph. You've got a couple of the top links at the very top of the page, which is nice to see here. They've got their social media profile. So it's still messaging they're controlling. There's a couple of Facebook pages, a couple of LinkedIn pages showing up, and their knowledge graph. So overall, they're pretty much dominating 90% of the top half of the search results. Pretty good job here overall. Here's another example. So this one here, Dallas Car Care. So here you can see it, a really good example of a competitor. City Garage is bidding against Dallas Car Care to have their ad appear. So if somebody's doing a search for Dallas Car Care, they're kind of like, oh, maybe you should go to City Garage instead. So pretty clever tactic. It's done quite a bit. And that's why that's also why Discount Tire also bids on their own branded search terms. Facebook page here we see as well, and the knowledge graph, which is basically generated from multiple sources. And this little feature here, which I'm going to call out a little bit later. These are FAQ questions. Now, this is by Yelp, but I want to call that out because I'm going to be talking about that a bit later. And this is an example of some additional visibility that you can do as well. Because let's face it, whatever the question is that Yelp generated and created and added to their page, what days is Dallas Car Care? Well, I'm pretty sure that information is on Dallas Car Care, right? Well, we're going to show you later how you can have that content on your search results instead of paying Yelp to display that information. All right, now why does this all matter? Why am I talking about how much visibility you get in your homepage and your website in general? Because so much of the traffic goes to Google. 92.26% of all searches go through Google. So it is the dominant search engine. So we focus our teachings related to how you can improve that visibility. All right. We're gonna today look at 3 websites that have done a pretty good job with their core elements, because obviously there's a lot you could do with your website. I'm going to give you just the fundamentals of kind of like the bare minimum you should include to help you capture much of that search landscape. So one of the ones you want to do most of all is branding. That you got to make sure that the name of your company is very visible on your website. Then we say, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? It isn't, because as you may know, a lot of your customers that you're getting are going to be from a word of mouth. So if they're asking a friend or something like that, say, hey, go to Autoscope or whatever it is. Well, their friend's not telling them the domain or website exact. So they're going to Google it. So you want to make sure that if they're Googling it and they see it in the search result and they come to the web page, that the two match up. That way, say, yes, I'm indeed on the right website. And so they'll continue. So you want to have that element on all the time. Typically top left corner, so they have immediate, yes, I'm on the right website. You also want to provide some navigation or a site overview. What are you including on your website as quickly as possible? Now, if you've got a website that has what's called a hamburger menu on desktop, where it's like 3 little flat lines for a menu, change it. Put the actual content of your website for desktop. On mobile, it's totally fine, but on desktop, that's actually kind of a bad user experience. You want to show the kind of services that you offer immediately, so the consumer is like, yeah, okay, good. They have the kind of service I'm looking for at a glance. Don't add extra barriers unnecessarily. They also include their social media links. And I'm going to explain a little bit why this is important as well. Remember, in the knowledge graph, they're appearing at the right. You want to include that as well. Some other elements that we don't see on a page here is that if you had an older website that had a splash page, I still bring this up. Occasionally, we still see people using those. It's really rare. You definitely want to do away with that. Don't put barriers to the information.
What is a splash page?
This goes back like 10, 15 years where people do a fancy animation. You know, it might be like, welcome to Autoscope, and some useless animation. Totally gone. Get to the information as quickly as possible. So sometimes I still bring it up just in case. I haven't seen it for a while. Maybe in a year or two, I can get rid of that particular caution. But especially on older websites, if you haven't updated your website, you still may have those. Hopefully you don't. But again, if you do, get rid of it. Get right to the page where you've got the meat of the content as quickly as possible. Also, this happens a lot. Quite often we get clients that have sometimes designed brand new websites. You know, like, DeAndre, our site traffic just tanked. It's completely gone. Can you help us? And we generally look at the code, and what we'll find is that there's a no index tag. And no index tags tell search engines, don't index this page. I don't want it to appear in search results. So make sure you don't have that on your website. And there's a couple of ways during the live Q&A, we'll show you how to look for that. So chances are, if you're not getting traffic from your website, you may have that problem. So it's always super important. Make sure you don't have that anywhere on your website, especially on your homepage. So I call that out because it's a disaster if you do. All right, here's another example, Discount Tire. Discount Tire does a fairly good job here, except for one thing. Their logo is a little tiny, but that's okay. We do have that overall recognition. They've got their site navigation appearing throughout, pretty good. They have the social media links, obviously no flash, and it's well indexed, so we're in pretty good shape there. Here's another example, smaller shop, Dallas Car Care. So again, they've got their branding element right smack center of the website. They have their overview navigation, that's great, no flash. It's definitely not set to no index. And at the bottom of the page, they have those social media links. However, in this case, they have rather old social media links. Google Plus is gone, has been gone for a few years. So probably time to update the website and get rid of that Google Plus. Kind of shows that you haven't maintained your website for a while. The last one is one that none of the websites I've looked at have, FAQ, frequently asked questions. Now, I gave the example earlier of how Yelp was using that. And again, there's some specifics. So what you want to do is that if you're finding that you're answering the same questions over and over again to your consumers, and it's just tying up phone time and your mechanics answering phone calls instead of servicing cars, you can help address that by creating frequently asked questions and putting it on your homepage, or in fact, it could be on the About Us page, it can be on the contact page. Anywhere you put it, it has some benefits, and it's going to look like we're showing on a screen. I'm going to cover a bit more of that towards the end of the presentation, but I want to call that out right now. That is a typical element that most sites are missing. It has wonderful benefits.
You also covered that in the Google My Business one we did last week, right? Like you
yes.
can do that through that.
Yes, as well.
So like a very easy way to get those input as compared to, if you have a website that you're working with a developer and you have to get in touch with them or pay them, you could do that through Google My Business too, right?
Yes, exactly, which is probably a lot easier because you just type in the question, type in the answer, and you don't have to do this coding. On the website, you're going to have to do a little extra coding to get that kind of visibility, but it does take up more real estate in the search results page. So if you're Dallas Car Care, for example, and you see that Yelp has created questions and answers, you may as well answer those questions on your own website, and you can take the search results page, because the goal is to own the top half of the page as much as possible. Don't give Yelp any breathing space, because if they get the leads, you might end up paying for those. So you want to bypass it, get as much direct traffic as possible. All right, next, the About Us page. So here's where you get the opportunity to tell your story, who you are and what you do for a living. So let's take a look at a few examples. So one of the elements that you want to have as much as possible, a little bit of information about your company, describing it, or your history. Discount Tire does quite a good job of doing that right there. And team bios. Not such a good job here, just a few names, but it's better than nothing at all. You could also have a mission statement. Most of the websites I looked at, they didn't have that, so it's optional. And here's Dallas Car Care, has quite an in-depth bio about their page. That's good. They do also have their social media links, and they also added some credibility statements, associations, certificates, and awards. You want to include that as well. This builds consumer confidence, so you want to definitely include that information as much as possible. So you can see here they mentioned in their body copy. That's good. It kind of validates that you have the expertise and you're a good, worthy shop to go at. Here's another about page. This is actually one of the best ones I've seen. Really lengthy description, kind of their quick story. They had a video describing their 35 years of experience. And here's their bios. This is a short version of it, but it wasn't really a bio, picture, and a name, but still helps you feel more comfortable when you're going to the shop. They also had external links. So they had the direct links to booking appointments and some additional contact information and their social media links. Really well thought out page. So overall, when these three sites were pretty good examples of the best practice for what to include in your pages. So you can see here, for example, that all of them include the company description. Most had the team bios. Nobody had a mission statement. Again, generally optional. The links to other pages were a bit soft. Ideally, only a couple of them did that. You should really consider that. If you're looking for some staff as well, it's always good to link for your job postings, and so that we can use that as a recruiting tool as well. Always include your social media links and any certificates, associations, or awards that you've won as well. All right, your contact page. NAPs. I'm not talking about having a little nap at the back of the shop. NAP refers to name, address, and phone number, so that you always include those critical three. You also want to add some reviews and schema, which I'm going to describe what that is momentarily as well. Let's take a look at example contact pages. This one from Autoscope again. They did a fairly decent job here. First of all, it was fairly easy to find the contact page. It was included within the navigation. And we also had multiple contact points. They didn't just put it on the contact page, they actually included their phone number, and you could book an appointment right from the navigation bar. Very smart tactic. That way, if somebody already knows your business, they just want to book an appointment, they can get immediately to it without friction, super, super fast. Great tactic. They also included the multiple locations and phone numbers. And they had a form. So if you don't feel like calling anybody, you could book an appointment, give a little bit of information on what you're looking for. So they kind of covered, multiple points of contact, and multiple contact options. Very nicely done. And of course, they included their hours. All right, Dallas Car Care. This one, again, really easy to find for the navigation. And they also included multiple contact points. Right at the top of the menu, they had the address and the phone number. And they also had a contact us and a request an appointment right in the navigation bar. So it makes it really easy to book an appointment for servicing. They also included maps, which is great. And don't include just a static map. You can actually get through Google at no charge, Google or Bing Maps. And that way you can see from where you are, get immediate directions. You can typically share that with your phone. Don't include just a static map. You want an interactive map. And the only requirement that you need to embed that in your website, you do have to go give Google a credit card to have on file in the event that you have thousands and thousands of visitors per month. I don't think any shop will have that many visitors. So I think you're going to be pretty safe and never have to pay a single dime to Google, but you still have to give a credit card and have it on file to enable that feature.
Good problem to have, right?
It's definitely a good problem to have. If you have to pay Google for the number of times people have called from your maps, you're probably crying all the way to the bank.
Yeah. So can features like this contact us be added? So if you're working with a developer, the developer can do it. If you've built your website through a template, is this typically available?
Yes, that's a really good question. Most of the templates, whether you've got a WordPress site, even Wix or Squarespace, all have these features built into their systems. You just have to put in information, put your credit card. So they've made it really easy to include all this information.
And you also covered the Google, you can build your website through Google. Again, in the one we did last week, we didn't really go through how to build it, but a lot of that information applies if you wanted to build, if you don't have a website already and you wanted to build it through Google. Seems like that would go a long way to having good search results too, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't have a website, I can't stress enough, get a website. Even if it's just 1 or 2 pages, you can really improve your visibility and credibility as a business. People expect to find a website about you. So it's really, nowadays, it's as much a requirement as having a telephone.
Would you recommend the Google tool for building?
I thought your option. I've never personally built a website in the Google one. I've used Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, but I've never used it. There was kind of a new feature that came out just about a year ago. Mm-hmm. So if it's easy to use and if you don't have anything, go for it.
Okay.
Oh, one nice thing, by the way, for the Google, if you don't have a domain, you can actually search and purchase your domain name from them as well. So they make it pretty easy. All right, so let's take a look at the contact page for Discount Tire. Discount Tire's contact page wasn't as easy to find, not very intuitive. It was actually, they had a little obscure address on top of their pages, which you had to click into, and then you could have to click on store details to get to the page that we're seeing here. So I wouldn't give them exactly high points to make it easy for consumers to find your local location. It was kind of hard to find. However, the rest of the page, they did a pretty good job in terms of having multiple, contact options. You could schedule appointments right here, shop for products. You could call them, you can get directions, you could share the information. They did well there, if you could find the page. They also, of course, did include their hours of operation. And actually one feature I really kind of like it, which was cool, in that they had the schedule, which is available from Google actually, to show you how busy they are, which is pretty good, because if you've ever been to Discount Tire on a Saturday, you know what I'm talking about, that you're going to be spending half the day sitting around before they even get to you. So definitely good to find out when they're not so busy and bring your car in. Sometimes you just want to get your tire pressure checked or inflated when it gets a little bit colder. It's nice to know when to go. Nice feature. They also include the maps. So again, really nice feature. So you can see, how to get there specifically. Highly recommended. They also, compared to everybody else, nailed it when it came to including reviews. And reviews are a fantastic tool. Consumers want to make sure they're going to a good shop, and this really helps to validate their decision, where it's like they can look at the reviews and say, you know what, I'm going to get a good experience here. At the end of the day, this is what they're looking for, and they're being very transparent with their reviews, and this is great. Now, there's some tools and software and plans that you can buy to do this, but again, you also, and we covered this on the Google My Business, that Google also collects reviews for you. Nothing prevents you from just copy pasting the reviews that appear in your Google My Business listing and putting it on your own pages. We do that for Firehouse Subs, for example. We only put like 3 to 5 reviews, and it's fantastic. There's another benefit to the reviews, putting them on your pages, is that the consumers are, in a sense, creating content for you, and that content, their reviews and descriptions, may actually have some great keywords, which will help Google to decide when you should apply, when they should display you or not. So it's a good one. Definitely encourage having lots of reviews on your website. Really builds credibility and confidence with consumers. All right, schema. Now, here's the weak point that I came across most of them. And you might say, okay, what is schema? Okay, so I'm going to use this example. Let's say that you put on your website that you do air conditioning repair. Like, well, that's great. Unfortunately, Google doesn't know if you're doing this kind of air conditioning repair or this kind of air conditioning repair. How could they possibly know? It's exactly the same description, right? So this happened a lot. The English language, let's face it, is a bit flawed. And so all of major search engines met, like, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago and said, we need to come up with a structured data or language that can help describe, that businesses can use to describe their products and services more accurately. That's called schema. And so schema can designate the specifics of your business. So there's a schema for local business, for example. And within that, you can say, I'm an auto repair shop versus I do home air conditioning service and repair. 2 different businesses completely, yet you both have the same description. Now, the search engines will understand exactly what you do and know when to display it to the consumers when they're looking for your products and services. That's what schema is, and I'm going to show you why it matters. I'm going to go back to the discount tire search results, and they had some really nicely looking search results, right? Well, there's a reason for that. They use structured data or schema. So the site links. So by adding schema, you can actually control or suggest to Google the site links that you would prefer them to display, or display period, on your website. And remember those Yelp frequently asked questions? That will also get your domain to display those. And what happens as a result of that? Look at the height of this listing for discount tires. It takes nearly 1/3 of the top of the page because of those site links. Doesn't give much room for anybody else now. Let's look at a couple more examples. People also ask. So the people also ask, let's say if you have a blog and you're writing articles. Well, if you say that it's a blog article and you put some keywords to that, Google will know the topic and when perhaps you're answering those specific questions. So that's where those might appear. You also have the Twitter feed. Now, Discount Tire, probably, again, a lot of resources, but if you're a chatty person and you love to tweet about your business, great opportunity to do what's called a same as. So you tell Google, hey, this is my business and this is my Twitter account. And what they'll do is that they will actually, over a period of time, put your tweets right in line with your search results. A great way to have immediate communications, both on Twitter and in search results, about what's happening with your business. Say if you have a power outage, it'd be nice to say, hey, we've got a power outage. You could just, hey, our thing flooded. Now, those are great examples where we can have immediate feedback from consumers to address whatever's going on. Some additional features is that the structured data can also help influence what appears in that whole knowledge graph, especially your social media profiles located at the bottom of that profile. So you can put that, hey, this is my Facebook account, this is my Twitter account, this is my YouTube channel, this is my whatever social media you can associate with the business. Google's like, oh, okay, great. And they're going to put them right on your search result page. So it really helps to control the whole messaging of your entire business. So that way, you're not leaving anything to chance, and you leave no room for the competitors to kind of sneak in there. There's some additional ones. So you can also have images appear. So if you tag your images correctly, and even videos could appear. So you want to tag your videos as with the structured data. Now, structured data or schema is really an advanced topic. So what you want to do is just bring that up to your web developers and say, hey, listen, we want to add schema to your website. And they should nowadays know how to create that or how to add that. And some of them now, a lot of the newer CMS systems, like we talked about, Wix or Squarespace or Google, build that into a lot of their components now. So it's a lot easier. So if you haven't updated your website for 5-6 years, maybe it's time to do that. You're going to get these rich benefits by updating your website. So a lot of benefits to doing that as well. All right, so here's a quick checklist for what to include in your contact page. So number one, remember, make it easy to find. Just call it the contact page. Don't bury it like Discount Tires did, which is a bit hard to find. Also include multiple contact options. So phone number, forms, email. Make it easy for the consumer so they'll reach you in their preferred method. Also always include your hours. And remember to also include your phone number and maybe appointments on the header or on your primary navigation. Just improves the visibility all over the place. Maps and directions. Always include the maps. That just makes it so much easier for everybody to find your business and location. So that way they can know exactly, okay, that way can actually, most people are going to be on their cell phone, so they can click on that, get directions, and off they go. So it's really essential to have that. Reviews and testimonials. The reviews and testimonials are probably the most unutilized aspect of your business, but really help to convince people to come to your shop more than others. They've got a lot of choices now, so certainly can sway their options. And then you want to tie all that in with that structured data. So bottom line is that contact page is going to make it easier for them to reach you. You're going to get more appointments, a lot less useless phone calls if you have that information on the website. Make it easier for them to find. You're also going to get fewer late customers if you've got those maps handy. Those reviews are going to build that trust. And with all those things in place, you're going to gradually increase your online visibility, which ultimately means increased sales. Typically, the clients we've worked with will see anywhere from a 30 to 120% increase in visitors in a 3 to 18 month time frame. So well worth the investment. Doesn't take much time. Just keep doing it a little bit at a time. All right, so some few fundamentals kind of to wrap this up today. Make sure you claim your business or create a Google My Business profile. These elements are all intertwined. Your website, your Google My Business profile, they complement each other. So you want to get both. You also want to create more than one page. So if you have a website that's a single page, divide up your content. You want to purposely create a couple of interactions because Google looks at page views as a ranking. So how many pages you interacted with will boost your organic ranking. So create a contact page at least have a couple of pages for the consumer to go at and make it easy for them in terms of make it easy to find your phone number, your address, your contact information. If you have social media profiles, make sure to connect them using the structured data and include them in your website and do monitor them. If you're not using them, delete them, please. There's nothing worse than seeing a social media profile that's the last posting was 6 years ago. Just get rid of it, close her down. Reviews. Okay, this is a big one. You should all have reviews. They really add credibility and boost consumer confidence. You definitely want to add that. And then finally, add that structured data. Once you've updated all your website, it's looking good, that's your last step. You want to button it all up because that schema, that structured data helps the search engines understand what you're talking about. Because the truth is, Google can be a bit stupid sometimes, as I say. Otherwise, you could get people calling you to get their air conditioners fixed. And you say, yeah, we service air conditioners. And they give you your address thinking, oh, crap, that's not what I do. I service automotive air conditioning. So be distinctive, make sure you get that data in. Otherwise, Google is going to send you the wrong customers.
And
so
just a reminder,
with all that,
I was just going to, can you go back to that previous slide, Andre? Just
yes.
to remind everybody one more time, you can see how to create that Google My Business account on the previous webinar. Talk a little bit more about social media and what they should be doing with their social media. Like you've got these links. Are you actually using Instagram or YouTube to get more messaging out there? Can you make any suggestions
sure.
on that?
Remember in our Google My Business workshop, we saw some really good examples of Starkeys, for example, featured a lot of the, I guess in a sense, collectors' cars as part of their Google My Business profile, as well as on their website. So kind of engage with your customers a little bit, but most of all, the social media are probably the best tool to gauge the feelings that people have about your business. Are you providing good customer service or not? And so keep an eye on that. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Monitor those reviews. It doesn't take much time. You know, even if you check in once a week or so, if there's a new posting, Google's going to let you know right away. So if you're seeing somebody's really ticked off at you, try and respond, try and resolve. Just the fact that you acknowledge that person goes a long way to restore the confidence for your other customers. So you definitely want to do that, just even if it's just to curate, keep an eye on the reviews, and always thank people that give you a positive review too. Just, again, you're showing that you care. It's so easy to just say, hey, thanks, I appreciate the feedback. That's all you need to do.
And you can ask for reviews while they're in your shop too. I mean, a lot of people do that. And especially if they're happy customers, ask them to go onto your Facebook page or wherever it is and give you a review.
Yeah, that way they'll find it because you've added it to your website. So it makes it easy for them to actually go and post those comments, which you can then later turn around and use on their website to continue boosting that credibility.
Cool. All right. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, put that in the Q&A. So this one, I probably should ask this earlier on, but what makes you show up in the map pack organic versus just pure organic search?
Well, claiming your business is the number one step.
On Google My Business.
Yes, on Google My Business. And the key difference is, so if you Google yourself from home, and let's say I'll use Texas as an example, and you live in Plano, but your shop is in Bedford, Texas. Well, if you Google your shop from Plano, you're probably not going to show up. You'll be in like on page 27 of the map pack, because the map pack is as much controlled by proximity and reviews than the actual content. So if you're in front of your shop, so I would encourage everybody to do this. So go in your parking lot and Google your company name. If you're not number one in the map pack, you have a problem. So don't search for the brand, the same. Search for car repair near me, or if you're doing transport, whatever your core service, do a search for that. If you're not appearing on there, then I encourage everybody to listen to the webinar we presented a couple of weeks ago on the Google My Business. It'll give you some tips and advice to help you actually appear for those specific results. When it comes to the map pack, Google is very, very literal. If you don't say exactly what the consumer matches, you won't appear. We had a restaurant, Chinese restaurant, actually, I'll say the name, they're well known, PF Chang's, was not appearing for Chinese food near me or Chinese restaurant near me. And we're like, well, that's weird. That's pretty much what they do, right? And there's 2 million searches a month for that. So you definitely want to appear. Well, it turns out that in the map pack, they never ever said they were a Chinese restaurant. That they didn't want to, because they want to, say they're much more than that. And that's exactly how we resolved it. We put on their website content and their Google My Business profile, we're more than a Chinese restaurant. So therefore, keyword checked, good, Google get, oh, Chinese restaurant, check. So for example, a lot of the dealers, one of the reasons that we decided to do this webinar series is that we noticed when we did search results for just a simple thing like car battery near me, that many of you didn't show up. And what we found is that many of you don't actually have the exact keyword car battery on your websites. So if you want to get that business, all you have to do is add it to your website page that you sell car batteries, and also add it to your Google My Business profile. So Google is really, really literal. Even if you said we sell car and truck batteries, you wouldn't rank for car battery because Google is so literal, it'd be like, well, you didn't say that. So you have to put exactly the best possible match. And so add lots of variations for whatever the service you provide, then you'll get your visibility.
Awesome. Okay. this next one, and you'll have to answer 2 questions within one. Should I use a listing management company like Yext, Bright Local, or Yelp? And the other question that I have is, what is a listing management company?
A listing management company is a service that helps you. They're kind of like a small agency, but they specialize in just one thing. They specialize in claiming your profiles and editing them for you. So they'll basically go through and they'll ask you a bunch of questions. They're going to go ahead and claim your Google My Business. They're going to claim Bing. They're going to claim the yellow pages. They're going to claim, there's probably 20 or so directories, and Google looks at all of those collectively for consistency and accuracy, and they do that. So because of that, your visibility will tend to improve, but you do pay for that. So it is something you can do it yourself, or you can hire a company to do it. Prices will range anywhere from 10 to, on average, $30 a month to have that type of a service. But their service will include things like they'll aggregate all the reviews from different sources under one place. So you can respond to reviews, so you don't have to log into Pinterest and Facebook and Google My Business and Bing, and kind of like, I mean, let's face it, do you want to fix and service cars, or do you want to be on social media the rest of your life? So it does channel and funnel and make it a little bit more streamlined to take care of those. So they're good services.
Okay. I have a WordPress website. How can I add schema?
Well, WordPress is a fairly easy one. They're specifically, WordPress sites are built typically with a lot of plugins. There are now plugins available. You can add it to your website. There's one called Yoast, where you can add that to your website. It's going to create a lot of the structured data you'll need for your website to improve your visibility. If you have, as I mentioned earlier too, if you got Wix, Squarespace, Google, those tend to be built into it as well. So you'll answer a few questions. It's going to auto-generate much of that structured data for you. And if you want to get super advanced, if you have the money or funds, talk to your web developer about adding structured data to your website.
Okay. And I may have already prompted this question, but I don't have any reviews. What should I do?
Well, that's a good question. That's actually fairly common. So you just want to remind people when they're leaving, if these look like they've had a good experience, and say, hey, would you mind doing a review? Just check our website. We've got our social media links there, or just search for a name. Make it easy for them. Just give them a couple of pointers and get their review process going. It's actually very, very important to have multiple reviews, because I guarantee every one of you, and I'm sure all of you are probably, oh yeah, you're going to get a bad review. One day, it's like, I've never met a shop who's not always had 100% happy customers. Am I right? I mean, that would be amazing. So ideally, if you've already had multiple reviews over time, if you get one bad one, it's not the end of the world. Your average score is still going to be quite high. Remember the Discount Tire example? They had bad reviews. I'll pull it up here. Look at, they had 6 2-star, 1 1-star. So obviously not everybody was terribly happy with that location, but overall they had 359. I gave them a 5-star rating. So the average is still 4.8, which is fantastic. Anything above 4, people consider really solid. And if you're thinking, it's like, hey, I'm going to ask all my family members and everybody that I know to add a review and make it all a 5, Google will figure it out. Google knows all your connections and who you're associated with. So generally it doesn't work very well. So best to ask your customers for those reviews.
Google knows everything.
Yes, they do.
Big Google brother. Last one we have here says, I didn't build the website and I don't have access anymore. What should I do?
Well, a couple of solutions. One, surprisingly, quite often, and I'm going to show you one example here that I spotted earlier, is that quite often, whoever developed your website may have a little bit of a signature bug at the bottom of the website, and you can find out who developed it. And if they're gone, companies come and go. You want to go to your hosting company. Your hosting company will ask you a series of questions, and you can take control over your website, and you can find out how it was built, things like that. So if you've got Squarespace, things like that, there are ways. You can also Google it. You can actually Google, and it's pretty easy. You want to type in who is, and then type in your website name. It's going to tell you where it's hosted and who the administrator of the website is. So it's going to give you some great starting points to figure out kind of like, okay, where do you go from here?
Awesome. Cool. That's all the questions we have. I wanted to talk just a little bit. This is I don't want to put you on the spot, but this is obviously something that we at Interstate Batteries would like to see you guys show up better for batteries, but this is ultimately going to benefit your entire business. Every service that you offer, you can use to show up through Google searches. So if you have any other questions, feel free to send those to us. We want to help you. We want to see you be successful. We're at Interstate, we say we're dedicated to helping have a measurable impact on our customers' business, and that's your entire business. So feel free to reach out and let us know how we can help. Andre, thank you again for this series. Everybody, one more time, you can listen to the other parts of this if you didn't hear it at interstatebatteries.com/Proclinic. And with that, I will say good afternoon and have a good day. Thanks, Andre.
Thanks, Kyle. Bye for now.